How will the world speak my name in years to come? Will I be known as the philosopher, the warrior, the tyrant? Or will I be the emperor who gave Rome back her true self? There was once a dream that was Rome. You could only whisper it. Anything more than a whisper, and it would vanish. It was so fragile.
All right, hello everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. This is Maintaining Frame number 70. My name is Brian. I'm joined by Allison, our boss, and we're going to be talking about Rome, I guess. Or we're going to be talking about people's opinions on the fact that men think about Rome or other sort of similar parallel things, and apparently that is a problem. So, before we get into the topic, I'm gonna hand the microphone, I guess, the floor. I'm gonna hand the floor over to Allison. So, Allison, you can do the things now.
There once was a dream.
There was once
and that dream.
There was a dream called Rome.
Called Rome.
Yeah. You could only whisper it. That's one of my favorite quotes from this movie. I always quote Gladiator.
There's no hope.
And I do that with my friends. Like, you could only whisper it. Anything more than a whisper would vanish. It was so fragile.
There's a really great, hilarious, and totally unbiased history of the Roman Empire on YouTube, and I forget the channel name because I'm terrible for that, but it's great. It's great. Really hates the germs though. Okay, all right. So, if you would like to support the show, we are starting our monthly fundraiser to keep the dream alive. The dream that you can only whisper.
Really whisper it.
feedthebadger.com/support. Got it there. All right. feedthebadger.com/support. I can barely remember our own links and names. Like, you can't.
Yeah.
Good luck me remembering anything else. All right, so feedthebadger.com/support to make sure that the show keeps coming. I may have to do some arm twistings in the middle of the show, so please just take a moment, put the address in your URL bar, and ponder. And every bit helps. So if you think that you're only throwing in $5, that's a lot. Thank you. Every bit helps. So once again, feedthebadger.com/support. And if you would like to send us a message at any point throughout the show, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. We get the full benefit of whatever you put through, and you get the benefit of avoiding YouTube's minefield of extremely confusing censorship rules, as well as having a little bit more space to baffle us with your commentary. So once again, that's feedthebadger.com/justthetip if you want to send us a message, and feedthebadger.com/support if you want to make sure this show keeps moving along, trucking along with its very unique message that, we have to care about men at some point, or we're going to lose everything that they build and maintain for us. All right, so back to you. We're going to lose Rome.
Yeah, so shout out to the Rumble gang really quick. Hello, Rumble gang. Please go and follow us over on Rumble, because you never know, one day we might just be gone from YouTube. Also, just as a side note, because I am gonna kind of I'm gonna simp for Rumble a little bit here. I don't know if you heard about this, Allison. Completely unrelated, but sort of related. Russell Brand has been accused of, basically the R word, but it's come out also that the BBC, because they want to distance themselves from him and also kind of unperson him, has gone and written letters requesting that, or sort of applying some pressure to big tech sites like TikTok, YouTube, and Rumble, suggesting that maybe they demonetize Russell Brand because he's spreading, dangerous ideas, and he's bad for, I guess, their pursuit of controlling truth and the narrative. And Rumble told them to fuck themselves in a very polite way. So I say, support us on Rumble. Follow us over there. So, it's the UK government. Exactly. Mr. 0303 in the Rumble chat. What's up? So just put it out there, maybe it's a good idea to have a Rumble so you can follow us there and watch our videos there. So anyway,
Okay, so it was the UK government that asked Rumble
because the UK government.
Oh,
It
BBC.
was Parliament, but BBC is a government thing. But the Parliament basically contacted Rumble, YouTube, TikTok at the very least. I don't know if there was other places.
Okay, now I really don't watch a lot of YouTube personalities. I know that's hilariously hypocritical, but I don't consider myself a YouTube personality regardless. But what is okay? So I listened to what Karen's summation in the last show that we did. That basically what he's being alleged to have done was not actually anything approaching sexual assault. It was just basically being a promiscuous man who had multiple partners at the same time or something.
Well, because he was a super famous guy and women wanted to have sex with him. I mean, that's ultimately what it is. I mean, and of course, now that because when he was on their side, when he was a part of that machine, he was acting that way. Nobody had a problem with it. Nobody said anything. Nobody complained. And now that he's struck out on his own and he's essentially criticizing the establishment, now they're like, there's women coming out of the woodwork. It's what we've said for, I don't know, since before Me Too started. Was like, well, you're weaponizing women's victimhood to destroy people, and they're mainly aiming it at men that they don't like. Because if Russell Brand had still been essentially on the side of the UK government or the BBC, these allegations would not have come out. It's only come out now, So
what exactly what is his real great offense? I mean, I trust Karen when she says she's looked at the allegations and she figures that there's nothing really that actionable about it, which is why they're not going to. Apparently, they're not bringing it into a legal arena. They're just going to keep it to the social lynching sphere. Yeah. But what is it that he's done specifically, like him? What is his real crime?
Seducing women.
No. I'm not talking about the bullshit. I'm talking about his real crime.
Oh, well, he's been outspoken against the coof and the jab. That's, I think, the primary thing he's been very critical of. And other kind of overextensions of various government institutions. But I think primarily it's that. I don't really know because I don't watch Russell Brand's show, because I've seen a couple clips and there's nothing that he's saying that other people who are probably less popular haven't already said. So I don't really, and this is not a criticism of Brand or anything like that, but I'm just saying that I don't watch him, so I don't know specifically, but I do know the general thrust of his content is essentially, criticizing the establishment, criticizing the machine. So, and that's, maybe some things about Ukraine, maybe some things about the jab, maybe some things about money printing. I don't know, but the point is he's going against the grain, and that's not allowed.
Yep. So, okay. All right. Fair enough. So they've hit him with this series of allegations, according to Karen, of being promiscuous.
Successful with women is basically that's his crime. He's successful with women.
He's accused of being a slut. He stands accused of being a slut. Okay.
Yeah. That's right.
I didn't realize that was illegal.
It is when you're a man, and you have the wrong opinions. It's okay when you're on the right side.
But of course, we slut shame women more than men.
Of course we do. It's all we do.
Ironically, it used to be illegal to be a male slut. Like literally illegal. Like you could get charged and sent to jail for it if you had sex with a woman and she felt that you had deprived her of her rightful access to I don't know, matrimony. Like it's called breach of promise. You could be sued, or not even sued. You could be put into jail just for being a promiscuous man in the past. I guess we're going back to that. I noticed that we seem to be going back to the old sexual morals of jailing promiscuous men, lynching men, that kind of thing. Boy, we're going to see some serious backlash to the whole free love thing. I guess nobody really wanted men to have sex. And if the babies didn't result, the babies didn't result from that.
It wasn't for men. It was for women. They were the ones oppressed. But anyway,
the problem is that when you have free love, men have sex. Right?
Yeah, I know, but that's
Men might be enjoying themselves.
Right, and that shouldn't be allowed.
That shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. Now, I mean, like, I'm not a particularly slutty person, but I don't think sluts should go to jail.
No, I don't
honestly.
either. I mean, like, well, yeah, obviously, but we're seeing this. You know, it happens in threes. Like, we have Danny Masterson from That 70s Show getting 30 years for like 20-year-old allegations. We have Russell Brand, who they can't like convict him for anything criminal, but they're just trying to destroy his reputation. And then we have, I think there was David, what is his name? David Ayoade or something. The guy from, you remember that show IT Crowd? He was like the Kiwi guy on there. Yeah, he's been accused, or he's being canceled for something too. He doesn't even like, you know, he's not even a vocal, like, you know, guy or whatever. So they're just weaponizing women's victimhood on everybody. They don't care. Oh, they did it to Tim Ballard too, because, you know, he goes on undercover to try and like rescue, you know, trafficked children. And sometimes it means he has to go under an alias, and sometimes he has to like bring a woman along, and they also have to operate under an alias, you know, for their own protection. And that is him coercing women, as noted by the very reliable source known as Vice magazine. So,
well, this I hate to tell everybody, but this particular insanity, like what we're seeing now, is a civilization in the grips of dementia. It's just basically a civilization that's gone bonkers, nuts. Either dementia or a deep addiction to female victimhood, and it's just gonna go, like, our civilization is just gonna ride this until it hits the wall. And I don't mean like maybe the wall. I don't know. It just hits rock bottom. How about that? And that's the only point. When our civilization hits rock bottom, that will be the point. It might start to think about what it's, you know, like the overriding narrative that it's been riding into the ground for however long. Mm-hmm. But like it's best to just step back and realize that we are in a civilization in the grip of dementia or deep addiction, and it's just going to get worse. No offense, guys. The only protection we have is to stop enabling it and to just protect ourselves as much as we can from it, and just frame it in such a way that we don't invest too much in it. You know, keep doing what we're doing, keep fighting the good fight, of course, but realize that there's no fixing this. Like, this is, our civilization has chosen the face of its destroyer, of the destructor. And it is feminism. It is the absolute unshakable belief that women are victims of society. Well, everything that you claim that women are victims of will eventually be destroyed. That's how it works. That's why when you want to go to war with Oceania, you say, Oceania is a threat to our women. Oceania is going to kidnap and rape and murder and torture them. Just imagine Oceania's claws all over Eurasia's women. And then everybody's their danders up and they go to war. And even better, Oceania hates its own women. Therefore, we should bomb them all. When we kill those Oceania women, we're freeing them from the dread grasp of misogyny. These are the narratives that put a red flag on something to be destroyed. And we have literally said, well, what else can we put this red flag on to destroy? Like these are the coordinates to send the artillery, folks. Oh, let's do it to our entire society. Herp-a-derp, that'll work long term for us. And when you point this out, people just turtle. Or they get really, really, really aggressive and defensive. And it's actually, you know, I sort of like the things that I enjoy. You know, I think I live a pretty modest life, but I'm fine with it. In you know, central heating, internal plumbing, electricity, the web, all great things. I'd like to keep them, but apparently we can't, because women most affected. And to bring it back to the title, Now, not only is it women most affected, meteor hits Earth, women most affected, stock market crashes, women most affected, millions of men die, women most affected, millions of men are raped, tortured, and thrown into a pit, women most affected. You know, 1 billion men die, women most affected. Not that. Now it's men think of neutral past, something neutral in the past, relatively neutral, women most affected. Men do innocuous thing by themselves without anything to do with women, women most affected. Men exist, women most affected. Men breathe, women most affected. Men have hair, women most affected. You know, men take walks down street in street parks, women most affected. Like everything, even the most innocuous thing, and this is what I'm talking about when we are looking at a society in the grip of dementia. Even the most innocuous thing, women most affected. Like, how? At what point? At this point, I'm just like watching this, and I'm saying, at what point does the average person with any sense of sanity just step back and say, yeah, maybe not. You know, maybe this isn't the case. You know, maybe women aren't being abused by men thinking about Rome. Maybe not. You know, maybe that's just not really happening. And yet, how many media outlets have now framed this in this way? Like, I think I sent you about 6 at least.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in response to internet meme, and they're framing it as victimization of women. Like, we're really scraping. We're not even scraping the bottom. We've scraped through the barrel, and now we're scraping dirt. Now we're scraping like bedrock. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I recommend Rumble. That's what I was getting at because they have stood up for Russell Brand, and Rumble is, I think they're good guys over there, and I think they should be supported. So please, you know, you don't have to use Rumble to watch the show, although I think that's helpful because maybe it'll do us some favors over on Rumble. Maybe we'll be able to attract more people to watch. But I think it's a good it doesn't hurt. It's free. Follow us on Rumble.
I'm really surprised we've managed to last this long on
YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah.
I know what. I think a lot of it is people just don't understand what we're talking about. I can see the gears clicking over when I go on Twitter and I talk to somebody. They're trying to figure out where I fit in the binary, and I'm just like I'm just some weird, you know, like.
What's the binary?
Weird composite. Well, the binary is conservative versus liberal, I guess.
Yeah.
And I don't know. So it's a really confused binary at this point because, you know, where do the TERFs sit? Conservatives, perhaps?
I have no idea. I think that anyone who thinks that way is a moron. So
yes, I do. But, you know, there are conservatives who are caping for the TERFs.
Yeah, I know.
The trans exclusionary radical, they are literally not. They're allowing these women to be just like, yeah, we need your protection from the horrible trans women, and they're not pointing out.
Yeah.
You guys started the whole gender critical thing, like. Yeah, maybe.
Those TERFs, those conservatives that you're talking about, they're just feminists from the 90s. That's all. They're still feminists, though. I mean, there's no. I don't know. I don't think there's very many actual conservatives left. Let's put it that way, from what I've seen. But
yeah, well, I would have to agree, and I could go into some very esoteric places with that. Mm-hmm. But let us get to the.
Yeah, let's get into the stuff. So, do you want to start with the article, or do you want to see a couple of clips of men being asked by their girlfriends or significant others or wives about the Roman Empire?
Ooh, I would love to see such a thing.
Let's look at a couple of these clips.
Let us look at that.
Yeah. This is we won't watch the whole thing, but watch a few clips. This is a compilation somebody put together, or a supercut, or whatever you want to call it. So here we go.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
I thought about it yesterday. I thought about it today. But I probably don't think about it every day. Probably like every other day, maybe. Well, if I was to stay on average, like half of the days. Sometimes I think about it every day. What? Fuck you.
That's crazy.
What?
Is it though? So basically there are women, in case you guys don't know what this is, and I'm sure you probably do, but I thought I'd explain it anyway. So this started on TikTok. So most of these are TikTok videos, but I don't go to TikTok because I don't want to get close to the Chinese like that. And one woman, I guess, started this whole thing, and she was like, I asked my boyfriend, I don't know where this came from, but it was like, I asked my boyfriend or my husband how often he thinks about the Roman Empire, and I can't believe it, he thinks about it a lot, okay? Or at least more than apparently women do. Which, I think this is a bit of an oversimplification, because I think the truth is that men think about a lot of stuff. I know it's crazy, right? It's crazy. But you know when a woman asks a man, what are you thinking about? Because maybe he's like zoning out or whatever, and the man will say nothing. He's probably thinking about something like this, but he knows that she wouldn't understand if he told her, yeah, I was thinking about Carthage, you know, or I was thinking about something else, like I was telling Lindsay, you know, once when we were talking about this, I was like, you know, sometimes I think about what I would do. Like I play scenario in my head of how I would react if like someone came to our house. I'm like asking myself, how fast can I get to the closet, get the double barrel shotgun, load it, and get to the front door? Like I'm thinking about shit like that. If there was a guy climbing up on our balcony trying to get in the house, how much time would it take? You know, should I position stuff a little bit differently? I think that's the kind of stuff that I think about. I don't know if this is normal for guys or whatever. Like the other day, I dropped Lindsay off at a parking lot because she was going in for a job interview because she's thinking about changing jobs. And there was this super sketchy guy like in the parking lot. And I mean, he looked really, really unwell. And you don't see a lot of that around here. And I'm watching him go around, and JoJo is in the backseat barking at this guy. And I'm like thinking, okay, if he comes over here, because I had my windows down because it was hot. And I'm like thinking, let's say he like pulls a gun on me or a knife, like how am I gonna react? What do I do? And I'm like playing these scenarios in my head, and like, you know, it's just I don't know, maybe women don't think about those things, but I feel like men generally have their head on a swivel and they're thinking about stuff like that. And when they're not thinking about that actively, they're thinking about historical like situations, like, well, what would a knight have done, or what would a Roman legionnaire have done, or something like that. So I do think that there is like the idea of thinking about the Roman Empire is a little bit of an oversimplification, because I don't think that's everything that men think about, but that is what the meme is trying to present.
Well, here's another way of looking at it. Almost all of our mottos are written in Latin.
Yeah.
If you are a man who is part of any kind of service, like the fire service, police service, EMS, any kind of that kind of service, you are going to literally be exposed to Latin mottos every day that you go to work. Mm-hmm. And those are majority male. Majority male. Then there are men's clubs that have these kinds of mottos, and fraternities, and I mean there's like the influence it's everywhere. There's the influence of that on men.
Our government is based on that.
Yes, there's also the architecture in particular. Mm-hmm. I think the U.S. architecture was going for that neoclassical style. So it's in the architecture. Yep. You know, and money. Also, you know, men have an interest in history. They consume a lot of nonfiction historical novels, and honestly, like the sheer per capita badassery of Rome is pretty high. So
well, yeah, it's a very masculine. I'm not saying only, but there is a lot of like positive.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of striving, and not just being like militarily awesome, but also virtue. So they embody a lot of virtues in a sort of a very masculine way, and I can see that appealing to men. I talk about Rome a lot. I think about Rome a lot, because it is the civilization upon which we stand. Like in many ways, we are a product of Rome. Mm-hmm. We exist because Rome existed. We are a reflection and an echo of Rome. And to forget that is to forget a lot of ourselves.
Absolutely.
And it's, to me, I don't understand why women don't think of Rome more often.
That's actually, I think, the more important thing about this is that the women, not only do they obviously not think about it, at least not the ones in these videos, but they think there's something weird about men thinking about it. They find it strange. And I think
but
that...
here's the thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead. I want you to finish before
I'm just saying that that's what the important, to me anyway, the important distinction is that men, that women don't think about it, and they, not only that, but they find that men who do think about it are there's something wrong with them. Like, why aren't you, I don't know, concerned with your fucking hair and makeup or something, your clothes,
and being murdered.
Yeah, right. Or
well, here's why men are not concerned about being murdered. Listen to how Brian was framing this. How do I protect Lindsay? I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
That's why men aren't thinking about being murdered, because they're thinking about how to protect you from being murdered. Dumbass. But but what I wanted to say is that honestly, women should be thinking about Rome, because understanding where we came from helps us understand where we are and where we're going. And if you don't have that kind of interest in social systems, why the hell do you have the vote?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, if you have no interest in the history of politics. Now, I'm a weird outlier. I when I was like 11, I was reading books on the history of political systems. So I'm one weird kid. I was a weird girl. Let me say that. But if you don't have an interest in that, if you don't have an interest in where politics comes from and how politics is affected, not just by wars, but also by social factors, like, for example, the issue with landowners in Rome disenfranchising small farmers, leading to a large number of men who had no means to essentially feed their families. So there was a problem with family formation in the late Roman Republic, and how that influenced politics. You have no interest in that, ladies. Why do you have the vote?
Yeah.
Like if you have no interest in history, you have no interest in politics, you have no interest in systems, you have no interest in how social pressures affect political systems, you have no interest in any of this, why do you have the vote? Like, why is that a thing? And why is that so necessary? If you're going to be so pathologically ignorant about what the vote means, why do you deserve it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, the vote isn't just about getting more stuff for yourself. It's about trying to maintain a system that serves everybody in it so that it can continue to exist. You know, and to vote in a way that represents civic responsibility. And if you have no interest in history and the foundations of our civilization, how can you be informed as a voter? You know, and I know that this is
what?
Well, I mean, this argument could also be like the literacy tests and all of that. So, as much as I say that this is something that indicates you should really ask, like, what are we doing with this? I think this should just be a call for women to wake up to their civic responsibilities and think a bit more about Rome.
Yeah, that would be nice. All right, let's go back and let's play some more of this video.
Why do you think about it every day?
Because it's cool.
That's a good enough answer for me. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next person. Because it's cool. Yeah. Oh, maybe I'll go back because I think he does add.
I imagine, like, that scene from Troy.
Are you talking about the Roman Empire right now?
Yeah. So you know that scene from Troy?
No, that was Greek.
Well, yeah, it's okay. I get it. It's we you know, people like cross the streams on that all the time.
Until he's like lifts up his thing and he goes like, and then all the other guys go like, and then...
So I guess what he's saying is, like, you know, it's like got these men working together. I mean, you can apply that to most of these kind of I don't want to say primitive, but prehistorical, military where the guys are all.
Well, yeah, no, actually, the Greco-Roman civilization, the military, was pretty distinct. Like the flank, phalanx. Look, guys, that's got too many complicated syllables for my woman tongue. But and also the Roman formations, which I will not attempt to pronounce on the spot. But they did rely on a level of cooperation between men and coordination and discipline that was not actually that common in at least the armies of the time, but which is why they were so successful. Okay, let's keep going.
All right, so here's another one.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Honestly, at least 3 or 4 times a week.
No, you don't.
I'm serious.
Dead serious?
Yeah. Either about their armor, their swords, their roads,
The
their
roads.
armies.
You're making this up.
I'm not even kidding.
Have you seen TikTok?
No.
You legit do. You think about the Roman Empire.
Yeah, I mean, and I see stuff on TikTok about it too. But what?
What do you think about?
I just told you. I listed off a bunch of stuff.
I love that she's like, "Are you on TikTok?" And he's like, "No, I'm thinking about Rome." Why would? And she's like, "I can't believe you're not on TikTok and you don't know about this." It's so like interesting, like how stark, the male and female experience is. And yes, I know there are exceptions, and yes, I know there are men that don't think about.
Yeah,
Rome. But
I'm not. I am probably one of the few exceptions, though. And I'm not taking offense to this because I know I am one.
No, I know.
If I walk up to the average man and say,
yeah,
what's your most favorite Roman senator? I'll get an answer. If I do that with a woman, they'll be like, what?
Yeah.
Roman senator? Or, do you mean like Joe Biden? I like Joe Biden.
Yeah, exactly. or they don't even say that. They'll just be like, women will just talk about a woman in power. Like that's like, and like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and that'll be the extent of it, right? Well, because I don't know. Like I'm gonna have a pretty good guest on soon. A woman. Actually, she's on your friends list.
You're having a woman
named Rachel Wilson.
I can't believe it.
And she wrote a great book about feminism, and she said in her book that women are much easier to propagandize, and so this is why. That's her estimation. Is that this is why there is such a big gap. And I think part of it is, well, how do you propagandize people? You get them involved in a kind of like social trend, and then they join in. Social media is extremely addictive, but particularly for women. And that's why this woman is like, "Are you on TikTok?" And he's like, "Why would I be on TikTok? Like, I'm thinking about Rome."
Okay, I'm going to point something out. Yes, women are easy to propagandize. And men know better, but they still do what women want anyway.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. That's how you do it.
That is the issue. So women may be more easily propagandized, but for whatever reason, who's the bigger fool? The fool that is foolish or the fool that follows him?
Yeah.
That's a Star Wars quote. And I know that sounds really anti. It's not. It's just calling out men. Like sometimes you need to use sense.
Yeah.
When instead of just doing what she wants, which I understand is very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what everybody's banking on. All right, let's go.
Okay, I got a super Rumble rant, actually. NovaFan21 gives us $2 and says, "Imagine telling an everything is political lefty feminist that everything comes from the Roman Empire, and watch them try to pull a confusing, convoluted, it's only okay when I do it type of logic." Thank you for that. Well, yeah, that's what they think. But maybe thinking about Rome is political. Maybe these men are pining for another time. Obviously, a time they never lived in. But maybe there is. I think that they're what a lot of men are thinking about when they think about this stuff, or anyone who thinks about Rome, is they're drawing parallels from Rome to our current day today, and they're like looking at what did Rome do wrong? What do they do right? What are we doing wrong? I think that's what men are doing. I think that's why, this is coming to mind. So.
I have a question for you. How often do you think of the Roman Empire?
The Roman Empire?
Like in general?
I haven't thought of them today.
So how often do you?
I don't know. Twice a month?
I haven't thought of the Roman Empire ever.
I just think about it.
Why?
Either from the Bible, sometimes just history.
Okay.
So she's like, I never thought about it ever.
Really?
That's
Never?
what the woman said. Well, yeah, I could. You know what? I get it. I do. I think that women's world. I mean, like, well, there was this screenshot. I think this is a tweet by Lizzie Logan in the Tijuana Brass.
Okay.
She says, "I always wondered what men do with the extra brain space they don't have to devote to calories and hair care and monitoring their surroundings from murderers. I guess the Roman Empire is as good an answer as any." I think that maybe like women are in such a state of constant fear, like obviously paranoia that has no like basis in reality, that maybe they don't think they can enjoy anything. I don't know.
Can I just bring a sane response to that? Let's go back to that quote.
You want to go back to this?
Yeah, okay. All right. So, yes. I think about calories when I'm inputting them into my Fitbit after I eat. That takes all of like 2 minutes. And I also think about hair care when I'm brushing my hair in the frickin' morning, which takes about 5 minutes. And monitoring their surroundings for murders. Why don't you go live somewhere safer? If you are surrounded by murders, like get out of I don't know, get out of the Ukraine.
She's probably in a very safe place, to be honest. I mean,
maybe leave the active war theater that you are apparently living in. Go somewhere a little more peaceful, such as the United States or Canada or any Western country or Japan, if really. Although they may not like you wearing your short shorts.
Yeah.
But first of all, she's full of crap. I think that men monitor their surroundings for murderers more than women do. And just from what you said about what you said about thinking about how fast it would take you to pick out the gun from your closet, get it ready, if something happened.
To get the double barrel out of the closet, load it, and get to the door. Or get to
men
the
are thinking
balcony.
about threats significantly more than women, Lizzie. They think about threats every time they prepare themselves to face one. For example, going into a gun range, picking out a gun, thinking about how to protect their homes and their families. What do you think they're thinking about? All right. And what do you think they're monitoring their surroundings for? Potential ways that murderers can get in. What do you think they're buying guns for? Or other forms of self-defense for? Yeah, they're thinking about that. They're just not thinking about themselves as being a victim. And it's not because they don't worry necessarily about being a victim. They probably do. It's because their worries about their families being victims are bigger than their worries about themselves being victims. So they're monitoring the surroundings for potential threats to their families and the people that they love. This is my experience. You're monitoring it for threats to yourself because you're solipsistic and selfish and you're a weenie.
Yep. That's right.
So, but like this, if we want, like I've said multiple times, if women want to be equal, then they need to take equal responsibility for society and equal responsibility for the defense of society. Maybe they can't be as strong, but they can be more alert. They can be aware of their surroundings. They can take note of things that look sketchy, not just things that look misogynist noir, but actually sketchy, And honestly, like, I don't know where she's getting off with this. Who spends most time worrying about, thinking about, and preparing for self-defense? Men or women? There you go. There's your answer, Lizzie. And I think that this is something that, I don't know, it might even be innate to the beast for men. So I remember, like, a couple weeks ago, me and Jonathan, we walk to the badger cave and we play with Skippy in the yard beside the badger cave. Scipio is our German Shepherd. He's quite a big boy now. There was some sort of weird guy who went the wrong way down the road, and he just for whatever reason he was throwing up some kind of red flag. And I swear, like, Jonathan was watching him.
Yeah.
And the expression on his face, I'd never seen it before, but it was one of intense predatory focus. Like, this guy, I am paying attention to him, and if he steps a hair out of line, you know, I'm thinking about how to neutralize him as quickly as possible. And it's hard to describe that kind of expression until you've seen it. And you don't see it on women's faces.
No.
It's the expression of preparing yourself to do necessary violence. Or something like that. And I don't think women understand that. And it's I don't know. It's something that doesn't come as naturally to us.
I think it's an evolved thing for men. I think so. I think that it was necessary. So.
And it's not just do
violence.
It's also receive violence.
Yeah, you're preparing your body for potential pain too. Exactly. Because I was thinking, like, that sketchy guy in the parking lot. I mean, I didn't know what the likelihood of anything was, but I was thinking, like, well, if he does have a knife and I get stabbed, like, where would it be best? You know, like, I'm thinking about shit like that. It's not good to think about. Fortunately, nothing happened. He came over and asked me for some change, and Jojo just drove him away because he was just, like, out of his mind. And the fact that Jojo was reacting that way made me think, there's something up, because, you know, my dog knows when people are being, like, he barks at sketchy people. I remember one time I brought Jojo up to Canada. Do you remember? We were in Saskatoon. I think it was Saskatoon. And there was this drunk indigenous guy. He looked like he was homeless. He approached us. Jojo barked his head off, and that guy just had to walk away. He doesn't bark at anybody unless they give him the heebie-jeebies, or he's trying to, like, you know...
For some reason, Scipio does not like white women.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Racist.
You know, he's just extremely leery of them.
Yeah, that's funny.
I guess I've influenced him. I've turned him into a misogynoir dog. But no, he doesn't like. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's because women are the ones who just sort of press it. You know, sometimes they're like, can I touch your dog? And it's like, well, I don't know. He might be okay with it, but he doesn't like a lot. Of, like, I don't know how Jojo is, but Scipio does. He likes maybe a brief pat and then move along.
Oh no, Jojo gets all.
Or not even like it.
He wants all the pats, but, like,
again,
if he, you know, if he gets a vibe from you that he doesn't like, he's never bitten anyone, but he will try to drive them away with barks. Anyway, let's get back to the video. I'll play one more clip from this, and then we'll go into some articles.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire? The Roman Empire? Yeah. Why? How often do you think about it? Probably every other day? Are you serious? Oh, never? Why? Well, that's a freak.
How often
one more time.
do you think about the Roman Empire?
I don't.
You don't think of the Roman Empire?
I never stop.
You never stop!
How can you apply time to something that is eternal?
The Roman Empire.
Rome is eternal. Glory is forever. These are the ideas that make men men.
Follow-up question. Is it the same as the Holy Roman Empire?
No. You will not mention that accursed thing in this household.
I don't know if you're joking.
Face of someone who's joking.
Oh, Men Are Funny by Rolling Stone. Oh God, I fucking hate you.
Yeah.
God. Excuse me, I gotta vomit a little bit. Okay, let's do Rolling Stone.
Somebody said this guy's wearing a Sabaton t-shirt, so it's a dumb question to ask him about.
Yeah, I know. He probably dreams in like
in SPQR.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
So I got like these two articles that kind of like jumped out at me. One is from Rolling Stone, entitled "Why Are So Many Men Obsessed with the Roman Empire?" A new meme shows men are the way more into ancient history than we realize. Mike Duncan, host of the popular podcast The History of Rome, explains why. First of all,
brace yourselves.
what did you think? To what degree did you think men were interested in ancient history? Like, why are you surprised? Like, men have generally always been interested in history, especially like, you know, the histories involving conquering and exploration and science and warfare and all of that stuff. You know, from
can I just add something here?
Yeah.
Oh no. Shit, I interrupted you again. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Honestly, like, when you look at the history of the Roman, no, I don't want to say it, Roman Republic, maybe it was more in, Rome didn't really go out to conquer anything.
Mm-hmm.
They just sort of ended fights that other people started.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, so this is, there's this picture of Rome as being very militaristic, but usually it just wanted to be like, yeah, leave us alone. And they wanted to have buffer states that kept the barbarians further away from their borders.
Yeah.
And then they'd make these arrangement with these buffer states. Another state would invade the buffer state, and then they would be drawn into the fight, the ensuing fight, and then they would take, and it would just kept going like that. They were just really good at ending fights. So it's not like they
softly and carry a big stick, basically.
Yeah, it's not like they set out to be a gigantic empire. It was just that they were the most functional social system at the time, and everybody else was just a void of chaos, and not even like chaos and self-defeat, really. I just wanted to cape for Rome there for a moment. I think we've discovered
I don't think we see it as a. Like, again, I think that Rolling Stone and CNN, which is the other article I have, I think they're going to try to paint Rome as some kind of oppressive patriarchal force. And it's fine that you are being clear about what it is. And I think when people say the Roman Empire, I don't think they're really focused on the empire part. They just think that those two words sound good together. It could be the Roman Republic as well, or whatever structure, because again, the United States founding fathers, they based not just the architecture but the actual like structure of the republic itself on the Roman model, or with the Senate and everything. So I think that there is a lot of parallels to think about. So anyway, so that's this article. The other one. Oh yeah. Do some.
Okay, no. Let's look at both of them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the other one is I'm just gonna give the title. CNN opinion: Men in the Roman Empire is more than a meme. By David
brace yourself, friends.
Yeah, brace yourself, right? So I think the Rolling Stone one is a good one to start off with. So I put it first. Do you have any thank yous or
No, I don't, guys. Please, just anybody out there listening, just $5. Get this started. Get the ball rolling. We got a completely empty field here, so you could be the first to crack it. So please do. It'd be great because it's a little bit nerve-wracking to have nothing there. All right, so feedthebadger.com if you want to make sure feedthebadger.com/support. Sorry, if you want to make sure we can keep doing this work. And again, send us some messages. Tell us we're not screaming into the void. Tell us that the dream of Rome won't die. feedthebadger.com/support, just the tip to send us a message.
All right.
Tell us about what when was the last time you thought about Rome and what you thought about. Okay.
You did. All right.
Honestly, I'm actually really interested in looking at that video because
what video?
It gives you a sense of what these men are actually thinking about Rome.
The TikTok one. We could play more of it if you want to.
Yeah, let's just play more of it because I think it's good to have the context of what these guys are saying about what they're thinking about Rome, and then we'll look at what these ideological these people who are engaged in ideological dementia think about what men think about Rome.
Okay. Yeah, what they think about men who think about it.
He looks like the face of a psychopath.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
I don't know, at least twice a day.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Twice a day? In what context?
I just feel bad for the way that my people's civilization had crumbled.
Oh.
What? And I'm gonna do my part to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Aww.
That's pretty heroic, isn't it? He's like, I'm gonna do my part to make sure it doesn't happen again. I think the men see what's going on, guys. I think the men around us can see what's happening.
Yeah, but they're still doing what women want.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think that there are more and more men calling this shit out. So in women.
You asked, I'm answering.
Okay.
People ask what happened to the Romans and the Roman Empire. We're right here.
Oh.
I got a super chow from Ergo Proxy. Thank you, Ergo Proxy. I'm not gonna play Badger Chant for you. I'm gonna give you this.
I am the Senate.
And he gives us $5 and says the only thing cooler than Rome is JoJo, which Brian will stream tomorrow at 9:30 Eastern time in the Badger Discord. And also my dog JoJo is pretty cool.
9:30 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah,
time.
9:30 a.m. Eastern time in the Discord tomorrow. I think you can get into the Direhawk, the screening room if you are a free user. If you're on BadgerNation.online, I don't know, Allison. Did they have
BadgerNation.online.
Yeah,
the screening
so it's
room
free.
is
It's free
It's
tomorrow
free.
morning. Hopefully, I'll see you guys there.
Come and watch our selections for movies and such, because we have movies usually Saturdays and Sundays. I've been doing a non-linear movie night in honor of editing my story for the past week, and we're probably going to continue it for a couple more weeks. So there's lots of stuff happening. If you are already in there, like, you should check out the screening room, because you can, if you want to join us and chat about movies and watch movies, then we can do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Again, BadgerNation.online.
So there's JoJo at 9:30, but then we stop at noon, and then there's a movie. What's the movie tomorrow? You know?
Okay, let me see. The movie. Nope, I don't.
Nobody's picked anything yet.
No, they usually have. I just need to go find it.
Oh, okay. Well, it should be like Ben-Hur or something, I think.
Spartacus. It might be.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
I'm trying to find, because the schedule is put together by one of the patrons, and I have to actually locate it.
Yeah.
It might be pinned. Oh yeah, here we go. So September 2023. That would be the 23rd.
Yep.
Okay, Evangelon.
Oh, Evangelion.
Evangelion.
Okay.
And then tomorrow, on Sunday, it's Fear and Trembling.
Fear and Trembling. I don't know what that is.
Yes. And then the October is apparently a zombie month.
Oh, you gotta have October. You gotta have spooky movies. So
yeah.
You gotta have spooky
and then
movies.
tonight, in the Discord, we will be screening a non-linear film by. Let me do it. This is something put on by the writing group. It is. Let me find it. Sorry, guys. Prescient, I think. Let me just. Prestige by Peter Nolan. Or Christopher Nolan, sorry. Prestige by Christopher Nolan. So that's what we'll be watching tonight. Okay, shall we get back to it?
Yeah, let's get back to it. So, next person being asked.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Almost never.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
The Roman Empire?
Yes.
Daily.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Just now, because you brought it up.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Not often.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Never.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
I haven't thought about the Roman Empire since I was forced to in high school.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Not very often, but I...
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Noon.
How often often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Constantly.
Really?
Constantinople.
This isn't a school, so I don't know. Maybe this guy's a teacher. Or
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
I think all the time, for real, because it remind me of sports.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Never.
Yeah, see what I was saying?
Yeah, there's a different thing to take away from it, for sure.
No, but he's into sports, therefore he's thinking a lot because they're the letters and the stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going.
All right, let's keep going.
Roman Empire.
No.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Probably more than people would think.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
The who?
I'm going to ask you again. How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
At least 2 to 3 times a day.
What do you think about?
Well, when I'm driving on the road, I think, man, we went from cobblestones to asphalt. So smooth. So much smoother.
What were you telling me about a cave?
Oh, yeah. In the Dead Sea caves, they found 4 very well preserved Roman swords. It's pretty cool.
I'm just pausing for the banana there.
Yeah, that's.
What?
Although I think that the copyright won't be because it's a compilation.
Yeah,
right?
it's a supercut, but I mean, like I don't want to roll the dice on that anyway. So anyway, yeah, they built durable roads. Yes.
I was all excited.
And you just think about this all day.
Yeah. Every day.
Why does she? I mean, it's so weird to me that she finds it so like funny that we think about this stuff. Yeah. Maybe it's almost like it's the first time that women got to look into what kind of things men think about, and they don't know how to handle it. Because if you'd have asked them about something like, I don't just think about the Roman Empire, I think about feudal Japan, I think about the romance of the 3 kingdoms in ancient China, the Qing dynasty. I think about King Arthur. I think about like the Civil War, World War II, World War One, like all these things. I mean, a lot of war stuff for sure, but but I think about that though because it's like this: the conflict is the same everywhere in the world at all points in history. So it's interesting.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire? No, really though. Do you really? What do you think? But like, what do you think about it? What about it?
This is kind of loud. I'm sorry, but he says all roads lead there, and he says he thinks about Caesar. So.
Yeah, let's skip this one. This sound is awful.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip this
one. Ask you a question.
Okay.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
How often do I think about the Roman Empire?
Yeah.
Pretty consistently.
Wait, you're kidding?
No.
Like how many?
Because I'm big into martial arts.
No, but like.
See, it's a different thing.
How often?
How often?
Yeah. Do you think about the Roman Empire?
Like a number weekly?
You think about it weekly?
For sure. Every time I fight people,
crazy.
I think about like walking into the Coliseum. It's like if this is a fight to the death and people are around and cheering, like I have to win. I think about it constantly.
Is that the only way that you think about it, or do you think about like other things?
No, I think about society too, and politics, and like how corrupt our, the upper portion of our society is, and how the lower portion is always kind of picking up the pieces. I think about that a lot.
This guy's kind of based.
Basically what I was talking about too.
yeah.
They're thinking about infrastructure. They're thinking about social political systems. They're thinking about social pressures. They're thinking about cool uniforms, I suppose, and sports.
Oh fuck yeah, man!
Like
the armor, badass, man. It's like
it's okay.
That's one thing that Romans got over the Vikings is the Romans have the armor. The Vikings got the fur and the weapons, but anyway, I'm sorry. And they have the tactics, but
The
you're gonna say
Vikings have it.
no. The Romans
Vikings
had
and
the
Romans would
Romans had
never
the
have really.
tactics. I know.
No, I mean there was overlap in like during the
When they were fighting the Germanic.
The Eastern Empire, like there would have been some the Varangian, I don't know how to pronounce that, guard would have come from a lot of I guess Scandinavian stock. So, but then the Vikings would be fighting for the Eastern Roman Empire, as opposed to against it. So, yeah. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of they sort of abandoned their the whole legion, that kind of extremely disciplined drilling, like creating extremely disciplined, coordinated, organized army. There was one Eastern Empire emperor who went back to that and had a lot of success, but that was close to the end, I think, of the Eastern Empire. I'd have to look it up again, but anyway, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, have you seen that meme? Like, it's like how society wants men to dress, how men actually want to dress, and it's like it's like a man in a suit for the first one, and the other one he's wearing armor. Yeah, it's so true. Like, I mean, it's not practical, but a suit of armor in my house would be fucking cool as shit. So
yeah, go to the dog park in your suit of armor.
Yeah, I would totally I mean, unfortunately, I can't be like authentic because Taino like Indians, they didn't wear armor. They had like I would be wearing like banana leaves and shit. I'm not gonna do that, but yeah, like whatever. I don't care if it's Crusader shit or if it's Viking shit or samurai shit. I think armor is fucking cool. So, but anyway, let's keep going.
I'm shocked. I haven't thought about the Roman Empire in never.
What kind of trick is this?
This is not a trick. I'm shocked. I tricked myself.
We
no, like there's this trend of all these women asking their boyfriends, husbands, how much they think about the Roman Empire, and I just thought like this wasn't real.
No, like men, I think to our core, we're warriors. We have to be ready for battle at all times, and the Roman Empire is all about battle. Common sense.
What? I am shook.
That's a big simplification. They were actually very successful, but much more successful because when they pacified a region, they actually brought benefit to it. So what was happening is these regions wouldn't necessarily, if another force invaded, they wouldn't rebel against the Roman Empire or the Roman Republic because they had infrastructure built by Romans and they were settled by Romans. So it is more complicated than they were just fighters. They were really good at being statesmen as well. And the idea that for them the first step in conquering, even though it was more like they ended up getting sucked into other people's conflicts, the first step was to pacify the people, but then to build up the region with infrastructure, with aqueducts, roads. It's like that scene from Monty Python's The Life of Brian. What's the Roman Empire? What have the Romans ever done for us? And then they list a whole bunch of things. Yeah. It's that was actually true. And it was why they could hold lands. They could hold together a wide swath
like path.
A wide swath. It's like a swath but with paths, like roads. They could hold that together and resist invasion because they didn't just like previously other states, I don't even know if you could call them states, other royal lineages would basically go into another place, subjugate the people and then demand tribute and offer nothing in return. Because the idea was that, you were subjugated, therefore you now owed, it was sort of like protection money. You now owed the person who'd subjugated you money in order for them to not go back and beat the shit out of you again. Right? Yeah. But that wasn't really the Roman philosophy. It was more about the first step was to pacify militarily and then to build up the region, which also helped to keep it within control because now they had roads to bring their legions back if necessary. But again, when you're starting to use those roads and those, then your quote unquote colonizers are actually bringing significant benefit, then you're less inclined to want to throw off the yoke when some asshole rolls over the hills and says, you help us go, defeat the Romans, and you're like, well, but does that mean we have to give up our aqueducts?
Mm-hmm.
So that's it's a little bit of a simplification because they were more than just Roman warriors; they were statesmen, and that was a big part of their success. Okay, let's continue.
Keep going. Yeah, sure.
Babe,
What did I do?
how often do you think about the Roman Empire?
More than you believe.
Like how often?
Mom, watch it.
I think about Nero and Caligula both.
Like how often?
Like daily or weekly?
No, I'm asking you.
Interesting choices.
Like how often?
At least once a week.
For real?
At least once a week. That's pretty dope. I just told you. I can't say it in front of the kids. They did some cool stuff.
Mom.
Caligula? I mean, I saw the movie, unfortunately.
I was just thinking Caligula and Nero. Those are some very interesting choices.
Yeah.
Can't talk about it in front of the kids. Okay.
Yeah. I think we know.
All right, let's keep going.
Okay, let's keep going.
I want to linger on this one.
Well, it does give you a peek into, a male psychology. I mean, with all of these, like when you take them all into consideration together.
Mom.
Often do you think about the Roman Empire?
How often do I think about it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess technically like every day.
Yeah.
Hey, babe. You know what I want to point out?
Yeah.
Okay, so the guys who have women in their lives, and a lot of them are obviously fathers, and in their long-term relationships, they're the ones who think about Rome. And that woman just sort of went and talked to her coworkers.
And some of them were like, no or never.
Never, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that there's this bit of a contrast here.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't feel comfortable revealing that kind of stuff with her, or alternatively, maybe they're men who think about Rome are more likely to be in long-term relationships.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well,
maybe there's a correlation there.
It's true. Maybe these men that are in the workplace with that woman, I think it was a school, they didn't really feel like close enough to her to tell her what they really think. But it is also another way you could, and I'm speculating here, I don't know, but if you are a father, you are thinking about more than just like the right now, right? You're thinking about your children and what you're gonna leave for them, and you're gonna be looking at it in the sense of legacy, and then that means you're also gonna look backwards, at other previous legacies to see like what would you like, your kids to be as sort of like the minimum, because obviously the standards of living are much higher now than they were in Rome, but there's still a lot from that. Yeah, but there's still a lot from that period that we're taking for granted that we could have.
Well, let me put it this way.
It's more social stuff, though. Go ahead.
Rome would probably be much more recognizable to us than the squalid rest of the world.
Yeah.
Like, just like people who are about the intellect of a dog. And all around the world, they they aren't much more than animals, and then you have Rome, and the people in Rome would have been a lot more recognizable to us mentally than anybody else in that world at that time.
Yeah.
And okay, let's keep going.
All right, let's keep going.
I got a question.
Huh?
I have a question for you.
Give me 1 second. Hold that thought. Boys could be called that too. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Like specifically or in abstract?
Just
That's
in
a good
general,
point.
like.
Well, I mean, we learned a lot of lessons from the Roman Empire. Like, a lot of our military strategy comes from the Roman Empire. A lot of our, like, modern plumbing comes from the Roman Empire. So, like, I guess in that case, like, I don't know, like, as often as, like, maybe once a week.
Once a week?
Like, in abstract, yeah. Like, how often am I specifically thinking about, like, the Roman Empire? Like, I don't know, maybe more like once a month, but, like, I mean, we learned a lot from the Romans, yeah. So, like, often, yeah. Why?
I don't even remember what the Roman Empire was in school.
Where is this?
Oh, God.
Is this another one of your TikToks? Where you ask your husband how often they think about the Roman Empire? Did I give an answer that is, like, stereotypically guy?
So good.
You filming this?
I mean, it's but I think she thinks this is really funny, but I think that what's sad is that these women, none of them get it. They don't get it. Like, I'm like, what are you thinking about? Like, what, like, if you find that what I'm thinking about is shocking, what are you thinking about? That's why I propose, do you think about, like, potentially becoming a concubine in some, like, under Genghis Khan? Like, is that what you think about? I don't know. It's just funny. And it's like, I learned about it in high school, but that's not what I took. Like, I was getting it in all of my other media. I mentioned Ben-Hur and Spartacus, the movie, not the show that's just like a bunch of dick. I didn't watch the show because I didn't have cable, but or there was that HBO show called Rome. I never saw that either. So, I mean, though, obviously there was always a market. There was always interest. But it's weird that these women find it shocking that men are thinking about history. Essentially, it's history we're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, Rome is, but also what about, Renaissance Italy?
Yeah.
How about the French monarchy? All the stuff leading up to the French Revolution, or the American Revolution, like British history. All of this stuff is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's do it. Let's hear what this guy.
The prompt is, how often do you think about the Roman Empire?
How often?
Yes.
Depends on what books I'm reading. But generally, if I'm not reading any like books that have some kind of historical, it's like probably once every other week. Or more often, depending on the book. If a book references it, then I might think about it a little bit.
What do you think about with it?
You're not recording, It's a topic that comes up in my history books because it touches all things history. So if it's in a book, I think about it.
But what are you thinking about?
Depends on the book. If it's about technological innovation, then it could be aqueducts or something. If it's a book about how Europe became a thing, it could be war. Or if it's a book about government, a lot of government's rooted in Rome. Varying levels of things.
That was the end.
Oh, these guys are so adorable. I want to hug them. Oh, I want plushies of them. They're so cute.
Yeah.
And their responses are so adorable. Like, and now I've discovered the secret appeal to HBR. It's the fact that I'm obsessed with Rome.
And apparently.
I never understood it until today. Yay! Oh, I have a purpose. Okay, let's find out what.
Yeah, let's find out what.
Let's hear what the people in the dementia wing of the of the old civilization's homes have to say.
Before we do, I don't know if you want to see if there's any thank yous or if you want to do any arm twisting or whatever.
Yeah, it's been sort of quiet today. You guys are is not an interesting topic.
Yeah, I mean, does this topic not interest you guys? You're not getting your motor.
Are you not
running?
entertained? Oh man, okay.
All right. Well,
all right.
whatever you
we
can
might be
do.
having something coming through as a super chow, but it seems to be it's in the pipe. I don't think it's gone through yet. It's in the pipe. We'll see if if it succeeds, and if it doesn't,
yeah.
I'll give you.
Yeah,
I'll give whoever sent it a heads up.
We just started this, so I'm not expecting much today. So, all right.
Yeah.
So let's look at this Rolling Stone thing. So there are very few people who know more about the history of ancient Rome than Mike Duncan, the creator and host of the tremendously popular History of Rome podcast, which first aired between 2007 and 2012. Duncan has essentially devoted his career to studying the inner workings of the Roman Empire, also writing a book, The Storm Before the Storm, which appeared on the New York Times bestseller list on the topic. And I got a super chat from Hothead Studios.
I am the Senate.
And he gives us $5, but he does not attach a comment. So Hothead Studios, if you meant to say something, just make a post in whatever live chat you're in and tag at Badger Livestreams. I will be on the lookout for your comment and I'll read it if you meant to attach a message. Otherwise, thank you so much for the support. Appreciate it. Okay. So when a trend started circulating on TikTok of women asking their husbands and boyfriends how often they think about the Roman Empire, only for them to immediately respond that they think about it on a daily basis, Duncan seemed like the perfect person to weigh in. As he told Rolling Stone on Friday, quote, "The trend is so potent, it pulled me back onto Twitter for the first time in months. I'm getting tagged by everyone about everything," end quote. Rolling Stone spoke with Duncan by phone to discuss ancient Rome, why men love it so much, and which celebrities think about it on a daily basis. Mark Zuckerberg, yes. Beyonce, not so much. Well, yeah.
Okay, prepare yourselves for some serious one good man spam from Duncan, who incidentally does not have any expertise in male psychology, despite being a man. That means he's only talking about himself when he speaks in this. So all of you one good men who think that you're I don't know what you think you're doing by dumping on other men, you're talking about yourselves when you talk about men. You're not talking about men. You're talking about yourselves. So let's find out why Duncan thinks about the Roman Empire. All right.
Okay.
Unless I'm prejudging him.
I don't know. I was gonna jump to a specific question because they have it laid out in a Q&A fashion, and some of this stuff is like whatever.
Boring.
You mentioned that the woman in the TikTok was flabbergasted that her husband thought about the history of ancient Rome that much. Were you flabbergasted by how quickly he responded to that question? No, I laughed, of course, because it's great stuff. The fact that you know just without even missing a beat. The only thing that is surprising about it is that usually when guys think about something like the Roman Empire once per day, they often feel compelled to share the fact that they were thinking about the Roman Empire. So it's a little funny to me that the women and their wives didn't know that they were thinking about the Roman Empire. Actually, no, I don't think that they are prone to sharing.
Also, all of these women were surprised by the response of their men.
Yes.
Okay? So what you are saying, Duncan, is what happens in your life to your wife.
Yeah.
Not any other men. Like this is Duncan saying his wife knows that he thinks about Rome. What a surprise if he's married that the person who produced a 5-year podcast on Rome, his wife knows that he thinks about Rome.
Yeah.
Shocking. Like, oh, the solipsism is strong with this individual.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's keep going.
All right. Let's see. That's what's so funny to me about it. It's not even so much the answer as it is the fact that none of these men are surprised by the question at all. It's like they've been waiting for their entire lives to be asked this question. Well, actually,
they were surprised, but they were. I didn't.
What?
Well, first of all, some of them were aware of TikTok trends with husbands.
Yeah.
So they weren't surprised by strange questions from their wife, but I didn't really get the sense that they felt much in any particular way, like surprised or not surprised.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like their wife asked them a freaking question, as wives do, you know?
Yeah. Hot's Head Studios attached a comment to his super chat. He put it in the live chat. He says, I did leave a comment saying I don't think about the Roman Empire often, but I have been reading Stoic philosophy to help with some difficulty I've had over the past year. Well, I think there is a relationship there. So, you know, because the Romans did take a lot from the Greeks, and that's probably where the parallels are. That's the thing, like, you know, you can think about these things indirectly, and I think a lot of the men in this video, when they answer that, they were essentially saying they look around them and they see stuff that links back to that. You know, I mean, the West comes from Rome, essentially, right? So,
yeah. We are basically squatting in the ruins of another civilization. Or alternatively, we really are that civilization. We are Roman civilization. We are what remains of it. The guy was right, you know, when he tapped his heart, said we are it. Yeah. He's right. We are it. And the big lesson to take from the fall of the Western Empire is that you got to fix the issue of young men not being connected to your society, and the Eastern Empire continued because it had fixed that issue. And that's an important lesson to take, that you need to fix the process of family formation. And that's what the Eastern Empire was Christian.
Yeah.
And Christianity fixed that problem in Rome. The end.
Yeah, I think that in a way, Christianity could only have come about. It was like a perfect storm of like Hebrew and Roman stuff coming together. I think that's why, like, I think that was like the fertile ground for Christianity to come about. But that's just my theory. I mean,
yeah. Okay, so
right.
I guess you want to finish that question?
Yeah. So let me see. Oh yeah, I mean, I've joked with friends of mine that the words that every man wants to hear is, "What does SPQR mean?" And then the interviewer says, "What does it mean?" And the guy says, "The Senate and the people of Rome." And it's kind of a thing. It's the kind of thing that would be emblazoned on armor and helmets, and the Romans are carrying around. You still see it every place in Italy. Actually, you see it around here too. I see the SPQR everywhere, actually. So yeah, you're kind of surrounded by it. All right, so I'm gonna go down to, there's another question. Yeah, here we go. Well, I guess the $1 million question here is, why do men obsess over the ancient Roman Empire so much?
All right, he just said, didn't he just say that men, this whole line of questioning, I'm actually warming to Duncan here, because he basically said this whole line of questioning suggests men obsess over the Roman Empire, but they don't. And now this idiot who's
the Rolling Stone interviewer,
the leading Rolling Stone nincompoop is leading him with this question. Because if you go back up, and I'll quickly read this. What is your general reaction to the trend? A couple of things. One is that I think people can conflate the idea that somebody would think about the Roman Empire once per day with the idea that men in their lives are only thinking about the Roman Empire every day. That we're sort of obsessively thinking about it nonstop. I think the Roman Empire is a historical topic, a hobby, or an interest, and we all think about like various other little hobbies and interests that we have in our lives at least once per day. Okay, so he's basically saying no, it doesn't indicate men are obsessed.
Right, but this guy's trying to suggest that they are obsessed.
Yeah.
Because he says, why do men obsess over the ancient Roman Empire? Okay, so his answer is, well, I think this is true of the demographics of the people who listen to my show and the people who buy my books, is that it does tend to be more male heavy. And I think a lot of it probably can come back to Roman history becoming equivalent to military history, and military history is definitely something that is always going to be more of interest to men than women, just on a practical level. It's a lot of stuff about battles and armies and generals. It's for the same reasons that we see a lot of dads getting super into World War II or the Civil War or the Napoleonic era. There is something that draws men to those kinds of military stuff. The Roman Empire was also an incredibly patriarchal society.
Wait. Okay. Let us unpack this a bit. Well, first of all, what's really fascinating to me, what really is fascinating to me about Roman history is not just the fact that they were a military superpower of their time, and they did so without much technological advantage over their opponents. In fact, a lot of the Germanic or the peoples that they fought against had better metallurgy than they did. They did it solely through social organization. And what's fascinating to me about that is how that mentality changed, how Rome somehow changed men's mentality towards war. So prior to Rome, I mean, not so much with the phalanx in please say that word, please. Phalanx in Greek times, which was the previous, like,
the Spartans
military.
Right?
Yeah, well, not all of the Greeks did that, but that was the previous military, like, super weapon. Was the organization of that. But the Romans managed to take this idea of military discipline and organization and cooperation and perfect it to such a degree that itself became a military superweapon. And one of the things that really fascinates me, and it sort of encapsulates what makes it fascinating, is during the First Punic War against Carthage, the Romans were completely trounced in terms of their navy. Like, Carthage was a naval power, like the preeminent naval power of the Mediterranean of the time. And the Romans did not stand a chance because they were landlocked farmers. And yet somehow they managed to win. And they did it. And it's the way that they did it which was so fascinating. They didn't just reverse engineer a win out of their naval losses. They created a system of learning naval warfare. So while they were learning naval warfare, they created a system to turn naval warfare into infantry warfare using the corvus, which was like a beaked plank, which they would they'd bring their vessels up to the Carthaginian vessels, throw down this plank, and then just turn everything into an infantry melee. But that was just the first step. That was just to keep Carthage off their back as they developed. They used directed learning, like conscious learning, to develop their abilities in terms of naval power. And then they beat Carthage. And they did it with such a self-aware system of steps. It's utterly astounding. Like, people should look at the First Punic War and be like, how did this happen? Because this represents a completely different mentality than men have had prior. I mean, during the Iron Age, it seems like civilization would sort of squat on its own little technological expertise. And then, it would be like a game of rock, paper, scissors. They would have, the Carthaginians would be really good at using ironworks to make it, to build a really powerful navy. This other culture might be really good at making crossbows or whatever, and they would neutralize each other. So there would be this whole patchwork of states, each with their own particular technological expertise and form, and that's how they maintained their boundaries. And then Rome just blew that all out of the water because they could reverse engineer victory from defeat. They could take a horrendous loss and then sit back and say, well, we don't want to do that again, and just get back up and do it. Whereas other cultures at the time, the men of those cultures at the time, if they endured that horrendous loss, the shame paralyzed them, and they surrendered to be castrated or turned into slaves, right? But not Roman men. They were just like, yes, defeat is just the beginning. That is a complete change in psychology for men. Complete change. Before then, you could have conquerors like Alexander the Great going around and conquering other cultures by simply hitting that shame button over and over again. Big defeat, men are in shame, they can't fight back. It's done. Not Rome. That, like I said, defeat is just the beginning for us because they had this means of overcoming that shame. And if you look at it, if you look at their mythology, you can see the means, the genesis of that means in the mythology of the Sabine women. So at the very heart of the so-called fucking patriarchal system is this completely new way of seeing the relationship between men and women as described in the myth of the Sabine women. Okay? And before then, if you look at Herodotus or all the other, they talked about how women's sexuality men had to be able to protect women's sexuality. So they had to have that military power or they were nothing. Okay. So that's why they would suffer one big defeat and that would be it. They would be subject to paralyzing shame because that was where their identity lay, right? They had to have that military power. And yes, Rome was very much about having military power, but it had a more self-aware approach to it. So when they had that defeat, it was just the beginning because they didn't seem to invest their identity as much in being able to protect the women sexually, if that makes sense. And the Sabine women, by saying, you know, kill us instead of fighting over our sexuality, like that. Okay, so the myth of the Sabine women, I don't know if anybody knows it. Essentially, the Roman men realized they had no women, and they went over to the Sabine tribe, courted the women. The Sabine fathers were like, yeah, no, they're scuzzy. But then they went back and kidnapped the women, brought them to Rome. For 7 years, the Sabine men did nothing for, I don't know, maybe traffic was bad. And then they came back and they started fighting. And the two groups of men were fighting over the Sabine women. Because in that time, if you could not defend your women, you were nothing. Nothing. Right? But at some point during the fight, when it looks like the Romans were going to win and the Sabine men were going to lose, the Sabine women rushed the battlefield, which is incredibly dangerous, by the way, and they said, kill us if the fight is over us. Kill us instead of each other. And that changed everything. And I think that is the source of why the Romans won the Punic War, the first Punic War. Why they were able to reverse engineer defeat from victory, because they no longer invested their identity, that kind of shame, in being able to protect their women's sexuality. The shame was gone, and it was replaced by guilt. Because there's a difference here. Shame is paralyzing, but when you think, okay, well, I've lost, but Rome still stands, so there's a chance. There's a chance to protect Rome. That's guilt. It gets you the buck back up and fighting on. Whereas shame is like, I have nothing left to fight with because this victory reflects on who I am as a man, or this loss reflects on who I am as a man. Well, it doesn't matter if it reflects on who you are as a man. If Rome is still there and standing, then you get the fuck up and you keep fighting.
Yeah.
That's the difference. And that came from a revolution in the relationship between men and women. And that is fascinating to me. So you can yap about how much, it's all patriarchy, war. No, it's deeper than that. It's also deeply about the psychology of men and women and their relationship to each other and what can happen if we just change it. Change how they relate and what is possible. Like, can't emphasize this enough, that what they did during the first Punic War was unbelievable. It's insane. And then the second Punic War, holy crap. They were doing things that at the time were superpowers. Like other cultures were just in awe of these men. They were terrified of them because of what they could do mentally and what they could endure mentally. And I mean, the one general that made during the second Punic War, it was Hannibal that invaded Italy. The one general that terrified him wasn't necessarily the one that ended up defeating him. Was named Fabian, and there's a strategy of delaying and guerrilla warfare that's named after him. He refused to engage Hannibal in pitched battle and simply used the countryside to essentially just keep him harried and keep him wasting his energy and dissipating his military power. And we use that now. Now it's called guerrilla warfare. It's also called Fabian strategy. And Hannibal was terrified of him because Fabian could walk away from a fight. He did not he knew how to control himself enough not to be baited into big set piece battles. And that was scary. That was a man who Hannibal couldn't control using the means that he understood, that were understandable to him. because with at the time, the Bronze Age, the what we inherited after the Bronze Age, you didn't come to the fight, then you weren't a man. But Fabian was like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to protect Rome. You can be a man all you want. But my purpose is to protect Rome. And that's it's radical change. And it's fascinating. So to say that Rome is only about patriarchy is nonsense. Anyway.
Well, yeah, obviously. And again, he didn't even, he doesn't really know the trend because we just watched the video, the supercut, and there were all kinds of different reasons. Yes, some of them were about, the armies and the military and all that, but a lot of them were about other things. Aqueducts, roads, sports, all kinds of stuff. Society, the politics, the architecture. So obviously, this guy didn't really pay a lot of attention, or he doesn't understand men.
Well, he doesn't understand men. He understands Rome, but he doesn't understand men.
Yeah, he doesn't understand men. But anyway, I'll finish reading this. But first, I got another super chow from Richard Bier.
And his name is John C.
And he says, for $5, these women are shocked that their partners aren't thinking about important things such as the Kardashians or I Am Jazz. Women will tend to hyper-focus on what to them appears to be a danger to the extent that other less obvious dangers get ignored or not noticed. Consider how many people didn't get any vibes around Ted Bundy. Yes, there are accounts circulating about some people, usually anonymized, meeting someone who gave them a certain feeling and staying away or getting away from him and later finding out that he was Ted Bundy. Of course, these are dated to a time before he was the prime suspect. Well, I think that I think that women are concerned with the social, the social benefit of knowing something. If you're keeping up with whatever the latest reality TV show is, then you have something to talk about with friends. And then it sort of increases your social cohesion with those people. But men don't prioritize that generally. I think they have hobbies and stuff, and that's where that comes in. But history is not something. It's obviously the opposite of whatever's current. So I mean, that's my thinking. But thank you, Richard. And I got a super chat from Albatross for $5, and he says, is it an obsession with the Roman Empire, or is it just the fact that recent and ancient history is interesting to learn about? Well, yeah, I think, again, we were just saying
it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And again, you see, it's probably a good idea to know it because it tends to rhyme. So.
Okay, so I think the next paragraph is going to have a lot to do with what I just said. So continue.
Well, I haven't finished this one yet. So yeah, let's read this.
No, I mean, sorry, the next part of this.
Yeah. All right, so it's for the same reasons that we see a lot of dads getting super into World War II.
We already read that one.
Okay. The Roman Empire was also an incredibly patriarchal society. If you dive into those sources and you start reading about it, it can be fascinating, but everywhere you're looking, you're just talking about men doing this and men doing that. We're not...
Okay, I want to address the patriarchal society. What the hell are you comparing this to? When people use the term patriarchal society, I'm like, well... All right, let's look at that term.
I think patriarchy just means recognizing men's contribution.
Well, it's not even that. It's like every single society on Earth, men lead.
Yeah.
They lead militarily and they generally lead politically. They lead. That's because men have lower risk assessment. They have higher risk tolerance. So they tend to be in positions of more risk. Okay, that's it. And it's not just humans. Our nearest relatives, males lead. Most social mammals, males lead. Our nearest biological model, which is actually wolves, not chimps, males lead. They lead the hunt, generally. Okay? But what's interesting is that females, for example, in chimp society, the males lead, but if the females don't like the leader, he's gone. In wolf society, males lead. But the female still wins the food contests a lot of the time during pregnancy or lactation. So there's still this kind of protective urge towards the female, the desire to provide and protect for the main female wolf. All of the other wolves are there to provide and protect for her when she's pregnant and lactating and feeding the pups. And then they provide for the pups when she's able to hunt for herself. Okay, that's how wolves do. That's sort of how humans do, because wolves in many ways are our nearest model. I mean, they're even finding that wolves might have a form of culture. All right, and what a surprise that our nearest model is also our nearest companion. Okay, well, I'm going to point this out.
Okay.
What is he comparing this to? All social mammals, the males lead. Our nearest relatives, the males lead. Our nearest model, social model, animal social model, the males lead. Every civilization, the males lead. Okay? This is a given. He might as well say, the Roman Empire was also an incredibly society.
Yeah.
Really? Okay. It's an incredibly society. Okay. It's an incredibly society. Oh, well, that's great. What do you mean? What is it? Incredibly society? Okay. That's adding nothing. It's nothing.
Maybe he should change his subject if he feels like it's a problem that it's a patriarchal society. Where's your series on Lesbos?
Okay. It's not. Like, every single society is you might as well... It's an incredibly society. Like, you can replace the word patriarchy with society. You can replace the word patriarchy with social group. Okay? It was an incredibly social group. The Roman Empire was an incredibly social group. Like, this is adding nothing. It's nothing. It adds nothing. Why? This is why I say, what are you comparing it to? Other societies at the time, the belonging of the society was embodied by the king, by the guy who could enforce the most power. You know, basically the mafia boss. That was who everybody belonged to. In Roman society, everybody belonged to Rome, personified by Roma, which was a female personification of the Roman identity. It's the same as we have, like, Colombia, the female personification of Colombia is, I think, the female personification of the U.S. And it's, you know how countries are personified by women in our time? Like, we have these national identities, and you have the female that embodies them. That was started with Rome. So they belonged to this kind of a female concept. And you are calling that patriarchal. Okay? That's like calling the church patriarchal. And everybody worships goddamn Mother Mary. Like, think about that. Everybody feels like they belong to this mythic image of the feminine. Is it really? Is it really? If what is holding their idea of belonging is a feminine concept? And again, is that a patriarchal society when you compare it to those societies in which everybody belonged to the king? Like, is this Roman concept of a national identity embodied by a feminine personification patriarchal relative to everybody being owned by a freaking king? Like, delusional bullshit here. Like, again, saying a society is patriarchal is adding nothing, because every society is led by men. But there's a difference between a society in which the belonging is embodied by a king and a society in which the belonging is embodied by the female personification of a nation. Do you see a difference there?
Yeah.
Fucking moron. He does nothing about what's worth knowing about Rome, and yet he wrote this podcast. Great. Okay, sorry. I'm just getting a little feisty.
It's fine. All right. We're not really ever talking about what the women were doing or how women were living. If you're sort of glancing around looking for something to get into, it's like, well, the Roman Empire is a lot of men doing war, and if that's not your jam, then the Roman Empire is not going to be of interest to you.
Why aren't you talking about that?
Well, yeah, why aren't you talking about the women? But also, like, again, I just went through a video, like, some of the men were talking about the war and the tactics, but a lot of them were not. So, you know, it's a little unfair. This guy clearly thinks he knows what men take from something, because he thinks he knows men, but he doesn't. And of course, he thinks he's not like those men, right? But he also didn't really talk about what the women were doing.
Well, I mean, but he's also saying exactly what he did. Okay, you did a whole podcast on Roman history, and apparently you decided that it wasn't important to talk about women.
Yeah.
Okay, congratulations. Like, you did that. That's great. This is what you did. You don't have to do that when you look at Rome. You can also incorporate the influence of women. If you stop seeing them as victims of that society, it's really hard to incorporate the influence of a woman and women in society if you're constantly seeing them as victims of it.
Well, I just think this is only in here because Rolling Stone needed to get the word patriarchy into this article somehow.
Yeah, I know. I said this guy's a buffoon and various other things, but he's being led by this.
No, I think that
interviewer.
I think he believes it too. I think that it's normal to think that, that like, oh, we're better people now because it's the modern times and the current day is better than previous days, and previous days were bad because men were bad. I mean, I think that's, you don't even have to be like an academic involved in this. I know. So I'm going to read this.
I take it back. The next paragraph. This guy deserves being called a fucking buffoon.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Next question from the interviewer. There was another TikTok I saw around the same time that I saw this trend surfacing that was this woman talking about how if you want to compliment a straight man in your life, well, I don't know why we need to say straight, but okay. You tell him that you think he would have done great during the invasion of Normandy. Is there a similar thing going on with the obsession with ancient Rome? Oh yes, 100%. There's really strong tendency to associate yourself mentally with the senatorial aristocracy of Rome, which was this incredibly small population inside the empire.
What the fuck are you even talking about? Who the hell do you think stormed the beaches of Normandy? Like, you think it was the senatorial aristocracy?
Yeah, right. You think it was the Senate? The Senate?
Jesus Christ, what a goddamn fucking...
I am the Senate.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm getting a little bit feisty here, but this guy's... I was thinking of listening to his podcast on Rome. I probably still will. It'll definitely be tainted by this bullshit, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this had nothing to do with his question. The men who stormed the beaches of Normandy were not the aristocracy. There may have been some guys who were aristocrats. I mean, in the officer class of the British. But for the most part, they were just dudes who'd been conscripted or volunteered. Like, they were just random average dudes.
Yep.
And also, what the hell are these women thinking? Saying, if you want to compliment a straight man in your life, you tell him that you think you would have done great during the invasion.
You would have come back in one piece, maybe.
You would have maybe come back in one piece. You wouldn't have lost a limb. Like, I think you would have done great completely by accident because you didn't catch some artillery. Like, what the what is this? Are the men more delusional than the women doing this?
Maybe they're just taking it as a compliment, like to their... I don't know.
Yeah, maybe these men are so starved for compliments. They're like, if you were thrown into a hail of bullets as cannon fodder, I bet you would have been accidentally spared. Like, what? What? Maybe they're probably just taking it. They're just taking what they can get. I'm like, I think this is a backhanded compliment, but I'll take it. This guy's compounding it.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, it says, he goes on. I mean, you're talking about a couple of dozens of families who are doing very, very well. Everybody else has an incredibly short lifespan. They're dying of various diseases. There's no health
Compared to what?
I guess compared to the modern day, I think he means.
You're doing subsistence
No. You're doing subsistence.
What? Do you understand what subsistence agricultural labor means, you fucking moron? It means you can't actually sustain a goddamn empire.
Mm-hmm.
Like, subsistence agriculture is literally just, they can only make enough to survive. Are you fucking... Okay, where'd the empire come from then? Huh? How did it manage to field an army if everybody's doing subsistence agricultural labor? Okay. There has to be a surplus somewhere.
And so, a lot of the people who try to romanticize what the Roman Empire was and putting themselves into the Roman Empire imagine themselves being, the senator in a fine toga, laying on his side, being hand-fed grapes. I don't think so.
Are you... that doesn't actually...
I don't think so. That's a funny thing to...
Also, that senator probably did a turn in battle. Like,
yeah, probably. Whereas more likely than not, they would have died at the age of 28 because of an undiagnosed kidney stone while they were trying to plow their lands. We would have all been the common people.
Yeah, like the common people who stormed the beaches of Normandy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is how it's like. Oh yeah, you said.
It's just trying to knock these guys, like these imagined men.
Yes.
That have these imagined ideas about Rome. He's taking what he assumes they believe, and then he's knocking that down a peg. So he's like just attacking a straw man of what men think of. Yeah, of men in general. Right.
All right. So, okay, first of all, these men aren't thinking about themselves in Rome. I think. No. Well, maybe they are. Some of them.
I don't know about that. Maybe they fantasize a little bit. Sure. There's nothing wrong with romanticizing. I mean, he's got Rome.
I don't think any one of them said, "Oh, I think about being a senator laying on a couch." Mm-hmm. They thought about infrastructure. They thought about political systems. They thought about empires crumbling. You know, they thought about being a warrior. Like, none of this is reflected in what these men actually said. We went through. What did the men actually say? Nothing. Like, nothing is being reflected in this.
None of them said, "Oh, I would be like laying on my side, getting fed grapes and being fanned by slave girls." No, none of them said that. None of them said that.
And most what they were saying, you know, and he's immediately casting other men as thinking about Rome because it's about privilege.
Mm-hmm.
What a bunch of nonsense! It wasn't about privilege. As far as I can tell, it was about responsibility, and much more about responsibility than it was about privilege. And also, what the hell are you comparing Rome to? Like, you can't compare Rome to today. You have to compare Rome to the squalid conditions of the rest of the world at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I got a super chow. And I got a Rumble rant, so I'm gonna read the super chow really quick from Anonymous for $25. Oh, it's an Anonymous for $25.
In addition to my collection.
And they says, I just wanted to mention men thinking men know what other men think. Yeah, basically. Well, this guy, I don't know what his issue is, but I guess this is his way of competing. And then I got a Rumble rant from NovaFan21. Thank you, NovaFan21. And he says, for $1, whenever I hear a feminist use the word patriarchy, I often think of how they equate holding women accountable just like men as oppressive, and think holding women accountable is a good thing. It's a good thing. All right, and thank you for that. And that's it for the super chows. So, the interviewer is a woman, Alice. That sort of puts things in perspective a little bit. Do you want me to read more, or because we're almost at 2 hours to wrap it up?
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Sure. What?
This is so. Can I read the female part? This is so fascinating to me because as a woman, I can tell you, I would never once thought about what my life would have been like in any period of history.
Oh my God!
Would have been terrible.
You could have been Catherine the Great. Meanwhile, he's like, well, these men are thinking of themselves as senators, and what are the odds of that? Is a very small percentage of the population. But you might have been one woman. One woman, Catherine the Great.
It wouldn't have been terrible. She knows nothing about Rome.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't have been terrible.
But he's got a podcast.
Roman women actually had it pretty well. They had a lot more property rights than the other women at the time, and they often they had a lot of ability to excel at business. Like, they ran a lot of the businesses of Rome, and for whatever reason, while they didn't really contest, like they had the ability to protest things and get things changed in the Senate. Like there was a bunch of there were like sumptuary laws passed during I think the Second Punic War, and the Roman matrons, they protested it by marching in the streets and got the law repealed. So they could actually directly influence the political process through protests. For whatever reason, they They wanted to be able to wear lots of gold. They didn't care as much about supposedly being considered property of their fathers or their husbands. That they didn't seem to be as concerned about changing for whatever reason. Probably because they felt very differently about it at the time than we do now. If they could march and successfully change a law, and that law was put in place because they were in existential terror at the time about what was going on, and they wanted to keep society together. If at that moment they could say, no, we're going to continue to assert our interests as women and have that hold, I think they could have changed pretty much any law they wanted, and yet they didn't. Okay? So women in Rome had power, and they exercised their power. They had agency, and they exercised their agency. They had businesses, and they managed their businesses. They had wealth. In fact, wealthy Roman widows is why Christianity got off the ground initially. So it wouldn't have been terrible. Now, it wouldn't have been as cool as it is now because we got a lot of things that they didn't have back then. All right, we don't have, I guess they did have central heating. It's just a little bit more arduous to create. And, they did have plumbing to a degree that other places didn't have. I mean, it was compared to now, it wasn't as pleasant, we'll say. But it's not as bad as you think it would have been, lady. And you have no idea because you never thought about it. You've never learned about it. All you do is just apply this lens of, oh my God, women were oppressed. Throughout all of human history. And you don't know any detail. Okay. Let's skip the...
All right, the joke. The Catherine's is a great joke. All right.
Why do you think this is so male specific? The tendency to project yourself into these eras and see whether you can prove your mettle.
I mean, I think it probably comes down to a bit of the representation matters thing. No, it doesn't. As men, we can always look past and see men who were poor, men who were middle-aged, men who were smart, men who were dumb, men who were emperors.
Men who are dying in war?
Every available option is available to us. If we're doing historical fantasizing. And if you want to get into it, you probably were reading about those great people because they're the ones who left records, and they're the ones that we know about. And so you get into a mindset, and you can imagine yourself in that role. Like, quote, if I wanted to, I could definitely sit down and imagine what would I do if I was a Roman emperor, end quote, which is impossible for a woman to do. A woman who is studying Roman history could see herself in Livia or Agrippina or some of the other sort of great women who are wives and mothers of the emperors. Sort of great, and the great generals and the great statesmen of the Roman Empire. But it's always going to be behind the scenes, I'm going to work by powerful magic, but in ways that are not readily apparent to anybody.
And that's not cool?
And that's not what women do now.
But also that's not cool. I'm gonna actually use my influence behind the scenes to be a kingmaker. That's not cool, huh? Because I think Merlin's pretty freaking cool, but apparently this man doesn't. This is just contempt for the feminine, honestly.
Yeah.
Women are either men or they're nothing. Is that it?
Basically, they either have to be like men or they're nothing. There were lots of powerful women alive in the Roman Empire, but then the Roman sources and the Greek sources that wind up writing about those women are incredibly mean-spirited.
Really? They're mean-spirited about everyone! Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
What do you... Julius Caesar got called a faggot! They didn't like anyone! The history was written by freaking Wardolph and Stadler from the Muppets!
Yeah.
They don't like anyone. What the hell is this guy's problem?
Because to be an ambitious woman is to open yourself up to all kinds of attacks. She's a shrew, you know.
Yes, to be ambitious anything.
Yeah. She's a monster. She's sexually rapacious.
Yeah, but what if she is sexually rapacious?
Well, you're not allowed to have an opinion on that. I'm surprised they brought up the Catherine the Great thing. This is what gets said about people like Livia and Agrippina. If you do a plain surface reading of the text, the women that were depicted in Roman sources often come off in very unappealing ways because the men who are writing about them are very threatened by the idea that these women being powerful.
All right. I have read the biographies from that time of some of the men. They also come across as an unappealing ways, because the biographers were definitely not writing in a way that was intended to flatter anyone. Okay? So get off your high horse. Women weren't singled. This was just something that was done to people who were powerful. Okay, there's very few emperors or even powerful men in Rome who historians presented as flawless.
Mm-hmm.
They all got some kind of draft. If you had any kind of power, you got pushed back. You had people who had opinions. That's human nature. So don't lie, mister. Okay.
So it does, I think, become very difficult to cross that fantasy divide of putting yourself in this time and space and place. When men think about people or places or times or points in history or other, like, they disappear in a world, they don't really try to, like, see themselves and stuff. This representation matters thing, it does not generally apply to men. Like, men admire, it's like, I don't know if you've seen the meme, and I brought this up before, there'll be a picture of, like She-Ra, and there'll be a Wojak, a female Wojak, and she'll be like, oh, what, I can't look like her, why can't, these are unfair body standards or whatever, and then there'll be a picture of He-Man, and the man will be like, I gotta go to the gym so I can look like that. Like, there's just a different way that we perceive this shit. So when men look at great points in history, they look at it with the intention of being inspired, not the intention of like, oh, I want to be that guy, so I'm gonna feel bad because I'm not, or I'm gonna pretend like I am. It's not about looking for this, I don't know, representation. I don't think that men are. It's different with us. We want to look at something and try to be like it, but that doesn't mean that we're jealous or feel like it is us, like we're narcissistic. I mean, maybe some are, sure, but I don't do that.
I'm losing interest in this.
We can stop. I could read this last thing right here. Call it.
And what's amazing to me is how unbelievably nasty this person is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just really negative. Okay. No, go ahead and read this one paragraph.
All right. Do you think there's an element of, like, this is a time where men could really be men that's appealing to men about this? I think that's probably true to some extent, and I certainly feel like there are people in my own fan base who listen to my shows and read my books and are in that right-wing and anti-woke adjacent crowd who probably feel like, quote, I feel stifled by this contemporary life where men are the only people that can be attacked and women have all the advantages in the world, end quote, straw-manning that position. This is their words, not mine.
Lie?
Yeah,
the lie?
There's no real lie there, but I think he's trying to, like, exaggerate the sentiment. So they retreat to what they think of as the ancient world, and it's a complete fantasy land. But I know many, many more Roman history fans where it's not about that stuff at all. It's not about trying to retreat from an egalitarian society to something that is far more aggressively patriarchal. But I thought that we didn't live in an egalitarian. I thought we lived in a patriarchy now. You got to get your history straight. We're still in a patriarchy. It's worse than ever. Gloria Steinem said so. Most of our culture today comes from Roman origins, or at least had a Roman phase. If you're talking about the history of Syria or Britain or Morocco or Spain, the laws, the politics, the structures, all of these things that inform Roman society now presently inform our own society. And if we want to understand the world that we're living in right now, the Roman Empire is something that should be studied.
Okay, who are these men who are like, oh, I want to live in this Incidentally, all of the men
he's making them up. I don't think they're real.
Yeah, you're just making that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe there are some men who want to live in a world where they're not constantly attacked, which you're attacking men. Like, literally, this guy is attacking men, and it's like, men are the only ones you can meet. You're attacking them. This is the most disingenuous shit. Mm-hmm. You are attacking men. And the men who talked about why they think about Rome don't resemble this at all. And incidentally, they were all like fathers and husbands. Maybe they're thinking about Rome because of the sense of civic duty to understand how systems work. so that you can protect your family from a potential future in which they might fail, or protect the system that supports them. And again, just the worst possible interpretation. But of course, the majority of his fans aren't like that. And
No.
let's see what his appeal, like the next paragraph. Let's do this.
What's the appeal for you? Why are you so obsessed with ancient Roman history? I got into it because I started reading the ancient sources after I got out of college. I was reading Livy and I was reading Plutarch, and what I discovered more than anything else, because I'm fundamentally a storyteller at heart, is that the stories about these people, the things that they did, the things that happened to them, the ways that they interacted with each other, are as fascinating, as entertaining as anything that I've seen in a movie or on a TV show. Take the late Roman Republic, for example, and those battles between people like Cicero and Mark Antony and Caesar. You read speeches from somebody like Cicero who's attacking Mark Antony, and the speeches are funny, they're hilarious. You're like, oh, these are just human beings trying to catch up, to get one up on each other. And the whole thing is incredibly dramatic. The deeper, richer cultural and personal lives of all these people, that's the thing that grabbed me from the get-go.
I thought that male politicians weren't insulted. Like, yeah, Cicero had a go at them, and historians had a go at most of them. Like I mentioned Fabius. Okay, when he's talked about in, I think it's Plutarch the Lives, he's not. Although his what he did positive was recognized, he's also condemned in certain aspects of his behavior person, and condemned by Plutarch, I think it was. And like, so yes, the male politicians also got in for condemnation. Like everybody who wields power, if you're gonna wield power, you're gonna be condemned by somebody. Yeah. Because you're going to be pissing off someone. So that's as true for women as it is men. So stop making women out to be unique victims. Or at the very least, admit that this is your new gender role for women. A victim.
So
okay.
So it appears.
Should I
keep going, or should we wrap it up? I mean, it doesn't really talk about America and Elon Musk.
Then Trump and then Elon Musk.
Yeah, and Beyonce and... I'll read this last bit, okay? What about you? How often do you think about ancient Rome? I think about the Roman Empire every single day. There's no getting away from it. I'm coming up on 20 years now that I've definitely thought about it every day. And then for lots of time, it's one of the only things I'm thinking about. My next book will be another Roman history book. So I'm already back in. You know, if I look back at my bookshelf right now, it's mostly Roman history books that I'm pulling down and reading. So I'm even further gone than once per day. I'm like several hours every single day. Well, then I guess you're basically trying to bring patriarchy.
What a misogynist.
Yeah, I guess you want to oppress women.
Good Lord. Anyway, and yeah, once more, another peek into the dementia wing of dying civilizations.
Yep.
We have chosen the face of our destructor, friends, and it is Misandry.
Well,
all right.
At least a lot of normal men get it. I wouldn't let these guys control that narrative, so yeah, I remain optimistic. Okay, I think that no more super chats or super chows. So, do you have any thank yous or anything?
No, honestly, like nothing.
That's
guys,
right. We just started. It's okay.
Put something in there. Feedthebadger.com/support. $5. Just get it started. Break the ice. Get it rolling. Feedthebadger.com/support. Okay, so at any time after the show is done, if you enjoy this content, you want to make a comment on it, or you want to tell us, give us a tip so we know that we're not screaming into the void, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Let's keep the dream alive. The dream of Rome.
You can only whisper about it. Anything more than a whisper, and it will vanish. It is so fragile.
Anything more than a whisper, the enforcers of the matriarchy will slap you down and say, no, that's patriarchal.
Yep.
Oh, good Lord. Like, and again, I don't know, what the hell is he comparing? When he says Rome is patriarchal, what is he comparing it to?
I feel like he's just, like, trying to tell her what...
she wants to hear.
Yeah, like trying to tell her what she wants to hear. That's what I think.
It's intense cowardice and ugly competition between men. It's like,
isn't it? It's old, so that means it's oppressive. And he's like, oppressive.
I'm gonna throw these random men I made up under the bus so that I can feel good about myself.
Can you believe these children? They wish they were centurions.
Like, I don't even understand how he got, men want to be senators from. Yeah, men think about storming the beaches of Normandy and wanting to do well, which I don't even know what that means. Like, what is wanting to do as an individual man? What is doing well on the beaches of Normandy? Like, not getting your arm blown off? Like,
yeah.
Jesus Christ. But anyway, then to conflate the average soldier, who is an average citizen, storming the beaches of Normandy with Romans, the aristocracy. What was in his brain pan? Like, I mean, that was quite a leap. I don't know how he did that leap. So he was definitely raring to go. I mean, she was leading, but he was definitely bucking his tracers and saying, "Let's go faster into the Misandry. Faster, deeper, harder. I hate men. There you go. I've done my tithe for the day. Let's have our 5 minutes of hate." Okay. All right. So once again, if you want to support the show, feedthebadger.com/support. And if you just want to send us a tip, feedthebadger.com/just-a-tip. And we will endeavor to read whatever you send, whenever you send it, at the next show. The next relevant show. Okay, back to you, Brian, unless you had anything further you wanted to add to this.
Nope. I think we're good. We're going to wrap the show up here. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you think.
In the wire, under the wire. We got a thank you.
Oh, okay,
yes.
Okay. All right, hold up.
Richard Beer gives us $50 to the fundraiser.
All
so
right,
feedthebadger.com/support. Thank you for breaking the ice with that $50.
Are you not entertained?
Perfect.
Is this not why you are here?
Absolutely perfect.
Yeah. So thank you, Richard. Again, like, share, subscribe, comment, and let us know what you guys think about this. There are links to the sources. There's also a link to the CNN article if you want to look at it. I think the Rolling Stone one is a bit better, so that's why I did that one first. And please share this video because
By better, do you mean worse?
Well, better for responding to. Better for rage inducing.
More egregious bullshit in that one.
Yeah. Anyway, so thank you guys so much for coming on the show today. Again, tomorrow 9:30 a.m. we'll be doing JoJo in the Discord. That's badgernation.online. I hope I see you guys there. It's a lot of fun. We should get through about 5 episodes and then we're done. They're about 20 minutes long each. And then I might also stream some more Badger's Gate 3 tomorrow. I haven't really had a chance to touch it like all week, so I might do that. I'll be on the lookout for that.
We'll have to do something on Sunday, but I can't do Beat Saber because my.
Well, we can do Badger's Gate on Sunday. I think you'll like it. Yeah, you can help make dialogue choices.
Ooh, yes. Okay.
Okay. So anyway, thanks guys so much for coming on the show, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.